your event. And what we do, we just, review all the basics of expectations in our program. And then we discuss if there have been any changes in the program in the last year that you guys need to be aware of. And of course, if there are any questions or anything like that, we'll discuss that. Yeah. So the first and most important thing, if there's anything that you need to know about the program, where do you find it? Website, exactly right. And this is what I want to stress because, if there's anything that you need, what you guys usually do, you run to Mike, right? How do I do that? How do I do that? What are the guidelines? You don't have to do that. You don't need to run to Mike. You don't even need to run to me because our website is pretty up to date thanks to Mike. And, you can easily get all the information from there. If there is something that you need and it is not on the website, please do notify Mike and myself so that we can post it, okay? All right, so USF Physics, grad studies. So you see, I even teach you how to Google it. Okay, so we want to be a PhD curriculum, okay? And this is where we will find a lot of valuable information. The one that I want to start with to review our expectations for you as an extremely successful student in our program is right here. So this is our roadmap for success for our graduate students. And we're gonna, first of all, realize that we do expect this program to take 5 years. Okay, so what is happening in your first year in the program? How many first year students do we have right now, please? Okay, wonderful. So we do have quite a few year students. So for first year students, we have the following expectations. So first of all, you're very busy with your coursework. Who remembers how many courses are you required to take in the program during the entire duration of the program? I think I need to give you a quiz or maybe even final exam on this, right? So 10 courses. Okay, out of 10, who can remind me how many core courses do you have to take? 4 core courses. Okay, the 3 questions is going to be what are they? No, we're not going to go that route. So typically your 4 courses do happen in the first year, 2 in the fall, 2 in the spring. It does not have to be that way. So remember that our core courses are offered every year. If you are in a situation, this is not true for electives. If you are in a situation that there is this elective that you absolutely want to take, but you just cannot fit it into your schedule because you still need to take core courses, don't worry about that. You can always push maybe 1, maybe even 2 core courses for the next year because these are offered every single year. Okay, so so typically you will complete your 4 core courses in the first year itself, and then how many courses are you required to take per semester as a graduate student in our program? 3 courses, right? So if you take 2 core courses, then there is space for 1 elective, right? That means that at the end of your first spring, you are likely to finish with 6 out of 10 courses. So how many of you finished 6 out of 10 courses for first year students or finishing? Oh, Jake is so happy. Jake, are you first year student? No. You're just eager to participate. Okay, wonderful. So now the other big event that will happen at the end of your first year is actually joining a research group. Okay, so first year students, how many of you already made that important decision for the summer? Because summer is your trial period. First year students, how many of you have already decided about the research group? Okay, wonderful. So this is how it works. First of all, who is the first person to notify about your decision to join a particular research group? I like James. Yes, that's a good answer. Perhaps you want to talk to your prospective mentor before that, right? Because you don't want to say, oh, Dr. Ina, I'm so excited I'm joining that group, and your mentor saying, no, I have no opening, okay? So you make sure that you discuss it with your mentor. He's okay for you to join the group. You are very excited to join that group. Then I will be the next person to notify, right? So I'm going to let you know if that is okay to join that particular group for the summer or not. And later on, I will explain a little bit why that is important. So, and you're going to be, which courses are you taking in the summer?
Research. Oh, research study.
He's going to take none.
Electives, whatever.
Yes, there is no structured courses in the summer. This is a very important point. But at the same time, you are taking courses, perhaps the most important courses of your career, because this is your very first directed research. And this is when you definitely want to impress your mentor. right? Because you want, hopefully, to make successful start to your graduate career in that particular lab, right? So this is very important. I would say from the very first day you come to your mentor and you ask the mentor, what are the expectations? How much can I possibly achieve over the summer? What do you expect for me to achieve at the end of the summer? How do I know that I'm actually very impressive in my progress, I'm making wonderful progress, or am I just getting by? Okay, so have those expectations are very clear. It's also very important to realize where you can get help, because that very first summer, chances are that you may be struggling, right? Because you're just starting research, you don't have enough experience. Actually, you probably don't have any experience. So it's important where you can turn for help, right? So if there are graduate students in the group or postdocs in the group, you're going to discuss if it's okay to turn to you for help. Don't assume that people have nothing to do, just waiting for you to ask questions, okay? Be mindful about, everyone's time, because everyone is very busy. Does that make sense? Have very clear expectations for the summer, because at the end of the summer, it's very important to have a discussion with your mentor. How did things go? Because it's not only mentor looking at your performance, it's also you evaluating your potential, your future in the particular group. If you realize that the summer has passed by and you didn't really make any progress, you were not challenged, you're basically, just spending a fun summer there. Think about it. Is this how I want to spend my graduate career? I'm really imagining here. I'm being creative. I cannot imagine any of the group in the lab where you can spend summer doing nothing, okay? But hypothetically, right? If your research mentor like me decided just to take vacation the entire summer, right? You don't want to be in that situation, okay? So every now and then you evaluate your performance. Ask your mentor, do I need to meet with you every week, or is it okay just to update you by email? How should I update you about my progress? Where do I turn if I need technical help, okay? Remember, as a program, we don't expect you to have any background in any research area or any group you are joining. In a sense, it's our responsibility to teach you the technical skill that you need to get started with the research. That being said, do all of my colleagues follow that expectations, follow that guidelines? I don't know. And I don't have any control over my colleagues. In fact, they never listen to me, right? But at the same time, as a program, this is our expectation. I'm imagining again, but if you come to the group and your research mentor says, oh, you don't know how to run this experiment, you don't know how to use this equipment, you don't know how to do this, you're useless. No. Then you come and you complain to me, right? So that should not be the case. All right, so any questions about your very first summer in the program? By the way, you do need to sign up for your directed research hours in the summer right now, okay? I don't know, Mike, do we give them grades? Because I want to ask how many of you already submitted your summer registration forms, and those who didn't, maybe we should penalize them. So how many of you submitted your summer registration forms? Okay, remember, this is the time to do so. We don't want any delays, okay? So for first year student, as you submit your summer registration form, it's going to be directed research. It's going to be directed research under your mentor. And the way we run it, this form is going to be signed by me. So what you do, actually, all your forms in the first year are signed by me. All the registration forms in the first year are signed by me. After the first year, once your mentor is formally assigned, this is when your mentor signs your form. Before that formal assignment of the mentor, I'm the one who signs your form, right? So for the first year student, as you submit your summer registration form, you're going to say directed research. And then you're going to say under whom you're going to do your directed research. Okay? And then I'm going to take a look at Ponomarev and I'm going to say, look, you're taking 5 new students over the summer. No, we cannot do that. Okay? So this is just a quick check that resources are kind of, fairly distributed between different research groups. Does that make sense? So if you have not done so, this is what needs to be done right now. Your summer registration form with directed research with a mentor indicated. Make sense? Any questions about that? Even if you're not in the first year, your summer registration forms still need to be turned in. Yes, Mike, am I missing anything about summer registration form?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay, all right. So now you had a successful summer. You realize that this is perfect group for you. You're going to talk to your mentor. You're going to say, can I continue in your group? If mentor says yes, you can continue in my group. Again, you let me know. I check that the resources are there. And if everything is checked, if everything checks, then you submit your form for formal mentor assignment. Am I correct, Mike? We'll do that at the end of the summer if everything's successful. This is when we do formal mentor assignment. Yes?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because your mentor has to be formally assigned. Don't rush with that decision, okay? Nobody's going to penalize you if you're in your first year and you don't have formal mentor assignment, right? So what you do, you submit that form at the end of the summer when you're absolutely sure that this is likely to be a great fit for your future in this program, right? So what happens if things didn't go very well? You realize that, you wanted to publish 5 papers over the summer and you only published 1. What do you do? I'm kidding. So if things didn't go that well for the summer and you want to switch the group, what is it that you do? So first of all, you want to have your second potential mentor, okay? You want to let me know that things didn't work out and I want to switch a group, right? You have discussion with your new potential mentor and you join that group in the fall. Okay, so in the fall, you're going to do almost the same thing as in the summer. You're going to try that group. You're going to try to be as productive as possible and see how things work. If things doesn't work with that second research group, what happens? So if the thing doesn't work with the second research group, we actually believe that our program is not great fit for your research interest, and we're going to ask you to look somewhere else, okay? At that point, you're at the end of your fall semester. We will give you the option to switch from PhD track to master track. Okay, if you still need some coursework to complete, and Mike will educate us about the requirement for the master degree. One thing to be aware of, once you're in master track, we cannot guarantee financial support in the form of TA. If we have extra TA line, of course, we will be happy to give it to you, but it's not always that we have extra TA line. There is no guarantee of financial support once you're in the master path. That makes sense? Okay, so now what else is happening in your second year? This is where you want to complete your remaining 4 electives. Typically, it's going to be 2 in the fall, 2 in the spring. Doesn't have to be that way. You can do, let's say, 3 in the fall and 1 in the spring, or you can do 2 in the fall, nothing in the spring, and then, you can do your remaining courses later. If this is the route that you want to take, if you really want to put too many courses, perhaps I want to know your justification why you want to do it that way, and I will explain why that is important. Okay, but in principle, as we always promise to you, we want you to be in charge of your graduate career here. We want you and your research mentor to make that decision which work you want to take. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so now the other very important thing that has to happen at the end of your second year is your first out of 3 examinations. The first examination is going to be your credential check, and once again, it better happen by the end of your second year in the program, which is going to be end of the summer. Okay, you can do that in the spring, you can do that in the summer. It's perfectly fine. In the spring, you're probably still a bit busy with your courses, but okay. Summer is a great time to go through your credential check. There is just one thing to be aware of. Often, you see, for your credential check, you already need to have a committee. It doesn't have to be your PhD committee with all 4 members present. How many members do we require for credential check? We have it all online, so we will find it out, but I think it's 2 or 3 members, right?
Officially, we don't require anything,
For the credential check?
correct? At least the college graduate studies, they don't require anything, so it would be up to us as to who we would want.
I'm pretty sure we require something. We can take a look, but I'm pretty sure that we require at least 2 committee members for your credential check. They don't have to be the same that will stay with you through the entire journey. You can change that, or you can keep the same committee members for your, other examinations. So, as I said, summer is a great time to do so, but be aware that you do need your committee members, and people travel a lot during the summer for conferences and other research-related things. So sometimes it may be tricky just to have all of your committee members in the same place at the same time. So if this is something that you want to do, do it, but just schedule ahead of time. You cannot expect committee members to be available on a short notice over the summer. Even for the regular semester, I always tell students, please try to schedule ahead of time because these things are tricky. Nobody believes me, nobody listens to me, but then they realize, I don't know what, maybe I should have listened. Okay, so anyway, make sure that this thing happens. So what is credential check? And this is again where the website is very, very useful. So you can go here and you can check out qualifying examinations. It will guide you through credential check as well. And then you can click here and you will see specific instructions about credential check, everything that has to happen. Briefly, there are two parts of credential check. The first one is written, the second one is oral examination. So for the written part of the examination, you're going to have a discussion with your advisor. And you see, you are already finishing the second year of the program, right? You've already taken quite a few directed research hours. So you're already familiar with the research area of your group, right? So you're going to have that discussion with your research mentor. And, from the discussion, you're going to decide about 3 to 5 typically review papers. Do not have to be review papers, but let's say 3 to 5 papers, which are extremely important for your area of research. And then you're going to review those papers and you're going to put your review in a document which cannot exceed 10 pages. It should be concise document. It cannot be copy paste from those research papers. It's basically your understanding of those, review or research papers, whatever you decided, okay, the way you see that. Does that make sense? So you have this document up to 10 pages. Not difficult at all. And this is very, very important for your research because it really helps you to prepare for your research. And then what you do, you submit it to your research mentor. Give them some time. Don't submit the night before and expect it to be ready next day, okay? So you submit that to your research mentor. Chances are that they're going to provide, some suggestions, some comments, some feedback. We all love to, look intelligent and smart and all that. So we like to give a lot of comments. So they will provide some comments, revisions, feedback. You'll take care of that. And then your research mentor say, okay, it's okay to send to the committee. You're going to send to the committee member. You're going to wait for their response. And then they say, okay, it's okay. Or they can say, these revisions are needed or those revisions are needed. But the moment, and of course you respond to those revisions, the moment your committee okays the written portion of your exam, then you schedule the oral portion of examination. And oral portion is going to be presentation on the same research articles. And, the committee will ask you different questions. And here is the expectation. At that time, you already complete majority of your coursework. Maybe you're missing one, perhaps even 2 courses in extreme cases, but majority of your course work is already completed. And this is what I should stress. You cannot go through your credential check if you only pass 4 courses, okay? It's when most of your courses are already completed. So think about it. At that point, most of your coursework is already completed. Presumably, you have very strong background in applied physics. And now your credential check, what's going to happen? Committee members will be asking you questions. But as they ask questions, I really doubt that they will be focusing on the technical part of the papers that you're reviewing. Chances are that they will be, they will be gauging your understanding of the concepts in physics. So, for example, as the committee members, the type of questions that I like to ask, when the student presents something, I try to see whether the student is able to connect that particular research finding to the fundamental concept that they learned, let's say, in electromagnetism, or in statistical mechanics, or in quantum mechanics. So in a sense, it's like, your comprehensive exam, but it's more applied because we see that connection between the fundamental knowledge that you gain from your coursework and actually research. Does that make sense? So when you're preparing for that, it's not necessary to focus on technical details of those papers. It's really that kind of bird's eye view and understanding of your research area along with, how it is founded in the knowledge that you gain from your coursework. Does that make sense? Okay, so you go for the oral examination, committee will ask you questions, and at the end, they will decide whether you pass or fail. So this document guides you through everything that could happen. If you do fail, we give you one more chance to present it one more time, but after that, things are not that rosy. So once again, I'm going to stress that all these documents are available for you on the website. I would suggest that every year you go back to the roadmap to success and see, am I staying on track? Mike and myself will also review the progress of students in the program at least yearly, sometimes even twice a year. And we do send you a reminder that you know that this is what needs to be done. But don't count on those reminders. Actually, it's students' responsibility to make sure that you meet all the expectations, you stay on track, and the progress is excellent. Does that make sense? So you check that roadmap on for success. Am I where I need to be? Yes, wonderful. Then I will just carry on. Okay, so we are here at the end of the second year, your credential check. Do we have any questions about credential check? So how many of you are expected to go through credential check the coming summer? That's when you're finishing your second year.
What a guy.
You mess with someone.
He's on accelerated track. 2 years and 1. Okay, guys, do you have any questions about your credential check?
I wanted to know, like, for the committee, what's sort of like the guidelines when you have a committee member that's outside the department, right? Because
Right here. So here we have committee guidelines. Okay, so you can always visit it and see anyone who is outside department, but USF faculty member in the related discipline. Broadly understood, you cannot just invite a language professor to be your committee member, but related expertise person with PhD faculty members completely fine. Anyone outside the department, the person needs to be approved. Yes.
If they're outside of the department,
I'm sorry, outside the USF.
outside of USF, yes, they need to be approved.
Outside USF need to be approved, and please be mindful that these things are approved at the level of college or university, I think, right?
Graduate studies, I believe.
Graduate studies.
And yeah, we need like a CV from the person, and it takes some time to get them approved, so.
Exactly. So if this is something that you need to do, it's better to get started earlier, because we were in a situation like that and it took a while, right? Because those committees, they meet only maybe like once a month or something. So it's not something that can be done very quickly. Okay. So do we have any other questions about credential check? So guys, for those of you who are in the second year, completed most of the coursework, please complete your credential check this summer. It's not difficult at all. In fact, we made it as simple for students as possible, while still something that really serves the purpose, prepares you for research. So please don't delay those examinations. Because one thing, every year I actually have to submit, I think it's called program review or something. And all these numbers go in. Any students who pass the examinations, we get to be penalized. So please make sure that our program doesn't get penalized because you are not up to date with your examinations. Okay, so what else is happening here? So you finished your second year, you're done with your credential check, you are very excited. So now here you have your green light for research, right? So in these years, you're going to be mostly busy with this. Yet that being said, there are still certain things that are coming your way that we need to keep an eye on. I think I'm going to start with industrial practicum or clinical practicum for medical students. Of course, I'm not going to talk about clinical practicum for medical students, but my point is that there is practicum one way or another. For core program, it's going to be industrial practicum. For medical physics students, it's going to be a clinical practicum. So here's the thing that's happening with the practicum. So first of all, sometimes students forget that this is actually required in our program. And then we find ourselves in the situation where the student is ready to defend and move on with their lives, and they have not completed industrial practicum. And here, they panic, they start looking for anything possible and impossible. You do not want to be in that situation. We do not have any requirement on when industrial practicum has to be completed. It's a good idea to do that in your third or fourth year because, first of all, you have a lot of time to look for the opportunities for industrial practicum. It's not a rush decision. It's not something that just like, last minute thing, right? And you really get to put time and effort into that and really gain from that experience. So we do have certain expectations for your industrial practicum side. So first of all, what is industrial practicum? Industrial practicum is research experience. This is important. This has to be research experience. But that research experience has to be completed outside of typical research university environment. You cannot do industrial practicum in another research university. You cannot. Okay. But what you can do, you can go to a national lab, or of course you can go to industry. Okay. So now national lab, I think it's very straightforward. The only thing to mention here is that, for example, abroad, they don't necessarily call them national lab, but we are aware that there are equivalents of national labs abroad. That's completely fine. So these are usually large institutions. Everyone knows about them. That's completely fine. So if you decide to go to industry, there are certain expectations there. So first of all, you don't go to industry, let's say, deliver goods, right? You're going to industry to do research. This is very, very important. From that point of view, the company that you identified, it has to be a respectable company, right? I should be able to find it online. I should be able to assess if this is a good site for your industrial practicum, because remember, this is important for you more than it's important for us, right? If you go to a good company and you perform really well and you put it on your resume, that's going to be very, very advantageous, right? If you go to a person who has a company and put that on the resume, who's going to care about that, right? So this is to your own advantage to find something which really can boost your resume, right? So what's going to happen once you identify the potential site for your industrial practicum? We're going to make sure that this is really great for you, right? So that company, I should be able to find that on the web. I should be able to assess the level of research and development that the company provides. So for example, if let's say there is a local restaurant that proposes to do some machine learning algorithm to increase the number of customers. No, this is not machine learning, fine, but this is not research development environment, right? So the company needs to employ at least one PhD. Usually we're not in that situation. Usually companies our students go to, they have many PhDs, many master people, right? So, but if the company you're going to go to doesn't have a single PhD and your supervisor will be the one with bachelor degree, no, that's not going to happen, right? In addition to that, we may choose to just, call the person and talk about the project that you're going to be working on. And if we call and we realize that we can never get hold of anyone in the company, that's also no, right? Because we don't want you to be in the situation where actually, they promised this, and then I just can't find anyone from the company, right? So there are certain expectations for the industrial practicum side. So now, as far as the funding goes, many of you are extremely good in identifying an opportunity that actually provide the funding. And that is great, right? So some companies advertise internships, national labs, they have a lot of opportunities as well. So that is great. Now, let's say you do find industrial practicum site, but they don't provide any support, and sometimes you have to travel somewhere and they don't provide any travel support or something. We do have a mechanism to support you to some extent. It's not going to be like, a whole lot of money, like anything in university, right? There's a lot of money in universities, and I think it's going to get only worse from now on. We're going to have less and less money. But that being said, where is our industrial practice? Yes, so here is our industrial practicum, and it does guide you through limited departmental funding for industrial practicum. Okay, so you can take a look at that and see what kind of support we can provide. There are other things about industrial practicum. So first of all, it's a course. Okay, and as any course, it goes by semester basis, right? So summer semester, fall, or spring, but it has to be taken as a course, something to be aware of. We've had the cases when a student, let's say, identifies industrial practicum site very late into the semester, and then we realized, the student realizes, that has to be a course, and then they have to submit all this petition for late ed or something like that, right? We don't want that. So identify your industrial practicum site early on. right? And then, so let's say in the fall you found where you're going to go, and then in the spring you go there. So that way we have plenty of time to make sure that you take that course and, all the paperwork is ready. So keep in mind that for international students, once you want to go to industrial practicum, let's say for a company or actually anything outside of USF, you have to submit CPT, right? So that is something that allow you to work outside of USF. That also takes time, right? So all these little formalities, they have to be in place. The course has to be created. Your industrial practicum has to be approved, because it could be the case that you found something and then it just didn't get approved because it doesn't meet those requirements, right? Then you have to identify something else and get it approved. So you see, time-wise, you want to be prepared, right? That cannot happen in the last moment. Okay, and then on top of that, if you're an international student, you have to go through CPT. Okay, does that make sense? So be prepared early on. Okay, so you plan ahead of time, again, consistent. Did I say everything about funding for the industrial practicum? I think I mentioned the main things, but if there's anything that I missed, you can read it from here. So, but that being said, we are right here. So these are the years, the best years to work on your industrial practicum. Go after those opportunities. Don't think of it as just some checkbox for you. Okay, so turn that into really great experience that will help you along the way, right? Think about something that you want to put or you can put on your resume, and that will be even helpful, and that will be something which will stand out for your potential employer, right? So let's say you go to Google or to Intel, right? That will look very good on your resume. But then you go to some local company which presumably does some kind of, artificial intelligence, sales, marketing. It's just not going to look as strong on your resume. But if you give yourself some time to think about it, to go after those opportunities, I think it's going to turn out to be a great experience for you. Especially because right now, opportunity in physics, especially in quantum physics, there are a lot of internships available for students like you. Okay, so year 3 and 4, this is when you're focusing on your industrial practicum. Do we have any questions about industrial practicum?
So regarding the duration of the industrial practicum, say up there, it's like 1 to 3 months. In a case where you have a project in the national lab and that might spill into, let's say, 4 or 5 months, does the department offer that wiggle room for cases like that where it's
Very flexible. In fact, Papula, I think you spent 6 months at Berkeley, right? So his industrial practicum was 6 months. We're very flexible with that. We will not approve industrial practicum for 1 week. Even 2 weeks, we don't believe it's as helpful as something longer. But if you do need longer time, that's great. I think it's a good experience. Any more questions about industrial practicum? Very important. Please do not delay that, okay? Because remember, you need time and you want that to be a very productive and positive experience for you. Okay? All right, so now the next exam that is coming your way, it's let's say year 4.5, or at the end of your 4 year, this is your candidacy exam. So what's happening with the candidacy exam? Let's say you're finishing your year 4, so this is where you already have a lot of experience in your area. You may even have publications, and in fact, most of our students will have publications at that point. And you and your mentor already should have a pretty clear idea about your dissertation, the topic of your dissertations, which components, which different projects will contribute to your dissertation, okay? And this is the time when you sit down with your advisor and you say, okay, so this is what I propose for my dissertation. I believe that this should be the topic, and this should be the different components of my dissertation. What do you think? And from that, probably iterative discussion, you will come up with the idea for your dissertation, right? And then what's going to happen at that point, as I said, probably you already have at least preliminary data, maybe more than preliminary data, right? So your dissertation can get started with the data that you already have, the knowledge that you already have. But then you realize, okay, this is my idea, this is my proposal, this is what I have already done towards, solving that scientific problem. This is what remains to be done. So So candidacy where you already have the concept or actually pretty clear idea about your dissertation. If this is a dissertation topic, scientific question, you can always start with a big scientific question or scientific contribution that you make into your area, right? And that will be the topic of your dissertation. Then probably you could be here or you could be here already towards achieving that goal, right? You'll probably already have preliminary data or already have publications, but most importantly, you have relatively clear idea what your dissertation is going to be on, right? And there will be some part that still remains to be done, right? And this is the time for you to go through your candidacy. So your candidacy is literally your proposal for your dissertation. This is what I propose to be done. And the reason why I believe it is important because of this and this. And the reason I believe I'm going to be successful in my dissertation because of this, what I already have. Does that make sense? And this is what I need to finish in order to complete my dissertation. So you have that written document. And again, all the guidelines are on the website. Your advisor reviews your written document. This is at this time, you already should have your full committee with 4 members, 1 being outside the department. 4 is the minimum required, right? So, and I always tell students, because of the experience that I had, I always tell students, have 1 more committee member. Yes, it makes it a little bit more difficult in terms of scheduling, because believe me, scheduling is a hassle to have 5 PhD people find the same time. It's very, very hard. But, it's better to have 1 more member because let's say you have your defense schedule, your 4 committee members, everything is set up, and then somebody gets sick, right? You cannot proceed with your defense. But if, let's say, you have 5 members and 1 of them gets sick, you still have minimum number of people to proceed. And the reason why I always give that example, because with my very first PhD student, I was exactly in the same situation. We were ready with defense and everything, and then just 1 committee member got sick and we had to reschedule, okay? I mean, rescheduling is always an option, but at the same time, it's up to you. Just keep that in the back of your mind. If you have exactly 4 members, please do it. Okay, so and it's somewhat similar to credential check, but of course it's more comprehensive. So you start with iterative discussion with your advisor about your written proposal. Then once it's good, you can send that to committee. Well, you should send that to committee members for review. They are okay with that. You go with your oral presentation. So it's a presentation. There are some guidelines here. Again, you put a lot of effort in that because this is extremely important examination. Committee may say, no, you're actually not ready because you're not able to answer questions. You don't have a grasp of your area. What you're proposing actually does not make sense at all, right? And this is very bad if you don't pass your candidacy. We'll give you another chance, but it's mostly bad for your self-esteem, right? Because after 4 years of work, you realize that this is actually irrelevant topic in your field, right? So it's not a good idea because that green light is very important to continue. We've had instances when after candidacy, it came so close to realizing that, oh my God, this person is not really, this person is not going to be. So, we've had cases like that, and the committee may turn you down at that point, okay? So this is very, very important examination. So this is another examination that you cannot play, and I will explain this. So after you complete your candidacy, only after you complete your candidacy, you can start taking doctoral research hours. You cannot take doctoral research before you complete your candidacy, only after. See the requirements. You need to have 24 credit hours, right? If each course is 3 credit hours, we're looking at 8 courses of doctoral research. 8 courses, it's roughly 1 year, okay? There is a little trick that we can use. We can turn 12 of your directed research hours into doctoral research hours, which will reduce this number to 12. But even 12 credit hours, it's 2 semesters. We had instances where students play so much that they're already ready to defend. They do they can. They just say they want to defend right after. No, because you have this requirement and there's no way, absolutely no way for us to work around that requirement. At least 2 semesters after you pass your candidacy, you need to be here and continue your doctoral research. So this is a very strong reason to make sure that you do your candidacy on time. You don't delay that because you do need those doctoral research hours. Is that clear? So how many students do we have? And they're 4.5 and 5 years needing to go through their candidacy. Okay, so please do not delay that. And you see the other reason not to delay, because once you delay something, you start feeling stressed about that. Once you start feeling stressed, you cannot enjoy the experience, right? It's just all fear and stress. Not a good way to go. Okay, guys, one last time, any questions about candidacy? And again, the guidelines you're going to find on the website. Before you go and knock on Mike's door, or even worse, before you go and knock on my door, you're going to check out the website, okay? And find all these things. I know it's too much to keep track of it. And even for me, I deal with that on a regular basis, but I do forget details. So every now and then I have to refresh my mind. Okay, so you're done with your candidacy, you're taking your doctoral research hours, you're done with your industrial practicum. Here we are, the most exciting point of your career. Defense, very similar to candidacy exam. The only difference that everything is complete at this point. Okay, so this is it. This is, your final accomplishment in our graduate program. So we do expect you to graduate by the 6th year in the program. As you may know, our average graduation time is 5.5 years. So we have some students who do it within 5 years. We have some students who do it with 6 years. So we don't want you to delay. My personal opinion, and many of my colleagues may disagree with me on that, but my personal opinion, if we have a student who took 8 years to graduate and the student applies for a job, I would personally be concerned. What's wrong with that student that took that? Of course, if your dissertation earns you a Nobel Prize, nobody's going to question 8 years, right? But if Nobel Prize is not there and you spent 8 years on your PhD, people may start wondering, what's wrong with that guy, that lady, right? So it's not a good idea to delay. And I know, because you see, we're all working on the projects and it seems like, oh, I just need to finish this one. Oh, I just need to finish this one. Try to play the plan ahead of time. So let's say I do want to graduate within 5 years. How do I make that happen? And have that conversation with your research advisor. Tell them that this is what I would like to do. How can we make that happen? How can we make sure that my resume is very strong at that point and I'm ready to graduate? Okay? All right, so now if it could happen, let's say you're past 6 years and you're still not finished. Cases like that do happen, not too often. I don't even want to discuss that, but beyond 6 years as a program, we cannot guarantee you financial support in the form of TA. RA, it's your advisor responsibility, but as TA, TA lines are dedicated to those students who are within 5 years. So beyond your 6th year, we cannot guarantee your TA support from the department. Okay, so that is another thing to keep an eye on. So do we have any questions about events and graduations? It's a good idea, and this is something that I don't even have to say because all the students are aware of that, but it's a good idea. So if you plan everything, let's say you plan that you're going to graduate in the fall, it's a good idea to start looking for a job right now, right? Because it does take time. You don't want to be in the situation when you already defended, everything is ready, and you just don't have a job, okay? So try start ahead of time. Nobody is going to say no to you because you still have not defended, because it's assumed that you're going to be able to defend your thesis, right? So start that job search early because you'll get a sense of how hard it or easy it is, and then you will be able to have your job offered as you graduate. Any questions? Okay, so I think we are done with our roadmap. So we have all these forms that you will need to submit for industrial practicum or credential certification form. So now the last thing, I think I'm going to let Mike talk about master along the way, because, this is the reason he's here with us, and I've been just, talking. Okay, guys, so, this is what can happen with you, and this is actually something that I strongly recommend every student. Once you are done with your coursework, you become eligible for masters along the way, which literally costs you almost nothing, and Mike will guide us through all the regulations about that. But in my opinion, this is a great thing to have, because we've been in situations like that before, when a student make an excellent program, working towards PhD, and then it was the real case with international students, something really bad happens with his family back home. the student cannot continue the PhD. The student leaves and they don't even have the opportunity to apply and get their master. Okay, so it doesn't happen very often, but if something like that were to happen to you, or maybe your own health issues or anything like that, at least you have something already, right? So something that doesn't cost you anything. So that being said, and perhaps I shouldn't be speculating about that, especially because I'm recording this meeting, but these days things are very uncertain. It almost reminds me of COVID time, right? I don't know, do you still remember COVID experience when every day, actually every hour of the day would bring you something so new that you never thought was going to be possible, right? Airplanes would not fly anymore, things like that, right? So now the times are also uncertain. And you know about all the pressure that administration puts on universities and things like that. And things are getting bad. Even for us, this summer is extremely tough in terms of funding. We got the lowest number of TA lines ever. There are lots of, how do you call those? Executive orders from our governor about, universities and things like that. I'm hoping for the best as always, but at the same time, it's not a bad idea to be prepared for the worst. If you already have your master, it doesn't matter, even if the country shuts down completely, you have your master already, right? If the things get really bad, you still have something and you can pursue, you can continue, carry on with your life. Okay, so Mike, now why don't you tell us everything that we need to know about market motivation?
So the most important thing to remember and understand about this is you'll be getting your master's degree on the way to getting your PhD. So you're getting 2 degrees, so you need to complete all the requirements for the master's degree and for the PhD. So it's honestly, it's not like you're going to a restaurant and you're ordering a PhD and you're like, okay, I'll take a master's on the side and you don't have to do anything for it. You still need to complete all the requirements, right? So the master's degree requires 30 hours. The PhD requires 72 hours. You need to add those 2 together and you'll have a minimum of 102 hours to complete both degrees. Now, obviously, if you're taking a full course load every year, 9 hours in the fall and spring, 6 in the summer, most students that are graduating within 5 years, that's 120 hours. So this should not be a problem. But if you're very efficient with your work and you're getting to the point where like you can be getting to the point where you could be defending soon, you need to understand that you're going to have to complete at least 102 hours to get both degrees. The other thing is that any coursework, any requirements that you complete towards the master's degree cannot be applied towards the PhD. So just like I was saying, it's 2 separate degrees. Now, obviously, there's the core courses for the master's degree. There's actually just 3 instead of the 4. Statistical mechanics is actually not a core course. We're not going to make you retake those courses, obviously. So we're going to have to apply other coursework towards the core courses for the PhD. So that would end up pretty much being like directed research. And really that's something that I and the college kind of handle just to be able to certify your degree at the end. But that's just something to keep in mind that we're going to have to apply something towards the core courses, towards the elective courses for the PhD. Now, going along with that, since we're going to usually be using directed research to apply towards that, the directed research that gets as Dr. Pomeroy mentioned, the dissertation hours, how there's 24, but you can apply 12 directed research towards a dissertation. Now, some of that directed research is going to have to be applied towards the PhD, core courses, elective courses, those requirements. So it might not have enough directed by the time we're done with all that. You might not have enough directed research to substitute towards the dissertation hours. We would have to look at that. You can talk to me. We can see where you are on your progress and see if we have enough to apply or if you're going to have to get the full 24 in dissertation or a portion of that. As far as completing the master's along the way and completing the master's degree requirements, now there's 2 different types of master's degree that you can go for. There's the thesis based and the non-thesis. The non-thesis is the I can probably go to the master's curriculum page. The non-thesis option is pretty much very similar to just your first 2 years in the program. It's basically just the 3 core courses here, plus 7 elective hours. We can even apply directed research to some of those elective hours. So if you haven't completed 10 courses by the time you're ready to apply for the master's along the way, we can apply directed research to that. So that's a very simple way to go about this. You would need to do your comprehensive exam to show that you are ready to be awarded with the master's degree, which is very similar to the credential check. Now, the other thing to remember, again, 2 separate degrees. So you have your comprehensive exam for the master's degree, but then you also have your credential check for the PhD. These are 2 different things that you're going to have to complete. The other understanding is that whatever you're writing up on for the comprehensive exam for your master's degree cannot show up or cannot be used for the PhD. So you're basically going to have to do this step like 2 separate times. For the thesis option, that is you're defending your thesis, very similar to defending your dissertation. So you're going to have a committee of 3 members. You don't have to have an external member at this point. You're going to have to write up your thesis and you're going to have to defend it. The other thing about that, again, your thesis defense is going to be completely different, completely separate from your dissertation defense. Again, 2 separate degrees. The other thing about the thesis option is you're going to need to be registered for thesis hours, just like you register for dissertation hours for the PhD. You need to register for thesis hours. The requirements state not a minimum of 9 thesis hours, but just like the PhD, we can substitute directed research up to 50%. So it would have to be 4 and a minimum of 5 thesis hours. But yeah, so if this is something that you want to pursue, please let me know. We need to complete these requirements prior to the deadlines for each semester. You would end up having to apply for graduation, just like you would if you're getting a terminal master's degree or doing your PhD. So we do need to be aware of deadlines within a certain semester. There's paperwork that I'll need to get drafted up, but yeah, that's pretty much a pretty good overview of that.
Any questions about master along the way? Okay, all right, thank you, Mike. Okay, guys, we'll have to speed up a bit because the intention is to finish by 11. So the last, I think, portion of information that I want to share with you is actually the courses. So again, the courses is something that you can find here. So I'm talking about the graduate level courses. By the way, you already told me that you are required to take 10 courses over the duration of your program here. So out of these 10 courses, we allow you to take 1 as cross-listed course. Cross-listed course is the one that is open to both undergraduate and graduate students. So you can use one of those courses towards your requirement. Out of these 10 courses, we allow you to take 1 outside the department and use that towards your degree. That being said, you can take hundreds of cross-listed courses and hundreds of courses outside of department. You just cannot use them towards your degree. Okay, so we don't want to limit your knowledge, but we need to make sure that if you're graduating with PhD in applied physics, you didn't take 9 language courses. Okay, so that does not make sense. So now, as far as graduate level courses go, you should be able to find our plans for those right here on the same web page. So this is what's happening right now in this year. You're pretty much aware, so you can find the syllabus here. So we already have our schedule. We call it tentative schedule because this is a graduate committee recommendation. These things are still very fluid because it depends on so many things that are outside of our control. But this is what we plan at the graduate level. So this is purely graduate level courses that we plan for the next year. Now, at the end of the summer, but most likely early in the fall, we will update that with our recommendation for the next academic year. So we always try to stay 2 years with our recommendation because we want you to be able to plan your curriculum here. So for example, there is biophysics course that we will be offering in the spring of 2026, right? And maybe this is something that you wanted to take. Then you think, okay, perhaps I will skip taking elective this semester because I want to wait for that particular course. So having that, 2 years ahead of time, schedule will help you to plan your studies, see which electives are going to be offered, which ones you feel like taking, okay? So Mike, are we requiring them to turn in their full registrations forms yet or not yet?
I sent it out to them. We've got plenty of time to get registered. I've got some time.
And that, the moment they hear plenty of time, nothing will happen.
I don't want to lie. But yes, I mean, we're focusing on summer, of course, right now, but it's the fall schedule's out there. They can register, so they have that ability.
Okay, so as Mike said, summer is the highest priority, but it's not a bad idea to think already about the fall. And the next year, as I said, schedule is going to be out hopefully in the beginning of the fall semester. So do we have any questions about, and as I said, we do expect majority of the coursework to be done in the first 2 years. Doesn't have to be that way. You can continue taking your courses, not your courses, you can continue taking courses throughout your entire career. Let's say there's something interesting outside the department, inside the department. As you can see, recently we've stayed very diverse with our electives, and we plan to continue the same way to offer something which is very up to date, not something that we've been offering for the last 30 years. But anyway, so take a look at that, make sure that, be aware that it's always available to you on our website. Just one page full of useful information. Do we have any questions about the courses, upcoming courses, or anything regarding the courses? Are we all good here? Okay, guys, so now in the remaining 4 minutes of this meeting, do we have any questions at all? Oh my God, what kind of tough crowd I have today. Anything at all that you want to share or discuss? So are we very, very clear about everything that is expected from extremely successful graduate student in our program? Mentor selection, be successful, be productive in your group, keep up with your coursework, keep up with your examinations, okay? Mike, what else do we have to tell them or threaten them with? Because they've been very
I mean, there's so much, but I don't know. I think we're good.
So just as usual, advertisement. And by the way, one more thing. So I know that once you're done with your coursework, you probably will never want to visit this tab again. But what I'm gonna do, before every semester begins, as you know, I send announcement about all of our electives, especially new electives, to all graduate students. Remember, once you're done with your required courses, it doesn't mean that your learning has to stop, right? If you see something which sounds like fun and exciting, I would strongly suggest to take advantage of this opportunity. And as you can see, there are so many new courses like Introduction to Group Theory, Machine Learning. Although we've had machine learning in the department for a while, that was mostly undergraduate. So this is going to be the first time that is offered at the graduate level. Topology for physicists, as I say, these days it's group theory and topology that rule the world of physics, right? So this is very unique opportunity. Advanced quantum materials, this is brand new course. We never offered it before. And as you can see, we've even restructured solid state because traditionally we had solid state 1, solid state 2, which is wonderful because solid state is such a huge subject, right? But then we realized if students take solid state 1 and solid state 2, they won't be able to take advanced condensed matter or advanced quantum materials or experimental techniques in materials characterization, the new course that we're running right now, because there's just not space, right? So solid state 1, solid state 2 was relevant perhaps 20 years ago. It's no longer relevant, but you do need that to have that foundation. If you want to take, let's say, advanced quantum condensed matter physics or advanced quantum materials, you do need foundation and solid state. The only way to make that happen was to combine both of them into one, and then let students to take something which is very, very relevant in the modern world of science. Okay, so when you look for a job in, high paying, high profile industrial company which is heavily engaged in, let's say, research in quantum computing, and you say, yeah, I took solid state 1 and solid state 2, they will be like real. No, you'll say, I took introduction solid state, but then you know what, I took advanced condensed matter physics, and I took quantum optics, and I took spintronics, right? So that will be much more impressive than you a while ago. All right, guys, I think that is all that I wanted to share with you. As always, stay successful and productive. We're just 2 weeks, I think, before the semester ends. So make sure that you end semester strong, and have a wonderful and productive summer. Okay? All right. So thank you so much. I've been so mean.